The planet was called Vorik 7, a barren, humid jungle world located in the unregulated stretch of space known as a rim expanse. It wasn't known for much, save for one thing: the trials. Officially sanctioned by the Galactic Council under the guise of cultural exchange, the trials were nothing short of cruel entertainment. Alien species from across the stars sent their brightest and strongest to compete for prestige. The rules were simple. You were dropped onto Vorik 7 with nothing but the clothes on your back. No technology, no weapons, no advanced tools. The only resources permitted were your wits, your knowledge, and the unforgiving environment itself. The planet would test your adaptability, survival skills, and resolve. It had tested thousands. It had broken nearly all of them. When word got out that a human had been submitted into the trials, the galaxy laughed. Humanity was new to the galactic stage, barely 3 decades out of their home system. Sure, they were scrappy, but this was suicide. The betting pools on the hypernet reflected that sentiment. Odds of survival? Less than 1%. Odds of lasting past day 3? Laughable. But humans had a habit of making the impossible seem inevitable. His name was Mason Calder, ex-Special Forces, survival instructor, veteran of Earth's last resource war, and perhaps most importantly, a stubborn, methodical man with no patience for alien arrogance. When they dropped him on Vorik 7, the aliens watching expected spectacle. They expected fear. They expected failure. What they got was silence. From the moment his boots hit the dirt, Mason moved with unsettling precision. No panic, no confusion. His eyes scanned the environment, cataloging threats, resources, patterns. Vorik 7 was a death world in all but name. The air was heavy with moisture, breeding clouds of venomous insects. The ground pulsed with life, some of it carnivorous, most of it hostile. Alien flora with acidic sap, carnivorous plants with deceptive beauty, water sources that carried slow-acting neurotoxins. Most contestants either fell victim to predators, poisoned themselves through ignorance, or succumbed to dehydration. Mason understood all this within hours. He wasn't the strongest nor the fastest, but knowledge was the ultimate survival tool. Day 1, while other contestants wandered aimlessly or panicked, Mason found high ground. An ancient tree with bark too dense for climbing predators. He built a basic shelter using vines and leaves, careful to avoid the irritant plants he identified by their crystalline sheen, a common warning trait across multiple Earth biomes. By nightfall, he had insulation, elevation, and a perimeter marked with pungent plant oils that deterred smaller wildlife. The galactic audience was mildly intrigued. A promising start, but nothing extraordinary. Day 2 changed everything. Mason located a stagnant pool, its edges lined with alkaline deposits, a sign of contaminated water. Most species avoided it. Mason approached with the wariness of a soldier and the curiosity of a chemist. He observed the insects skimming the surface. Some died, some thrived. He tracked where the surviving insects nested and found. 2 kilometers upstream, a natural filtration system, a series of porous volcanic rocks channeling spring water into a hidden basin. The water was clean, mineral-rich, and untouched by other contestants. Hydration problem. Solved. But that wasn't what shook the observers. It was what he did next. Using ash from his controlled fire, a fire ignited through friction methods so efficient they bordered on impossible for other species. He began producing crude soap. The process was deceptively simple. Ashes, animal fat from a small reptilian he had hunted, and water. He understood that Vorik 7's microbial life was aggressive, prone to infecting even superficial wounds. Soap was not a luxury. It was life insurance. By nightfall of day 2, Mason had fire, clean water, and sanitation, a trifecta that, to the watching elites of the galaxy, bordered on witchcraft. The commentators speculated. The analysts debated. But Mason wasn't done. Day 3 arrived with heavy storms, the kind that turned the jungle floor into a churning pit of mud and predatory chaos. Most contestants huddled in fear, their shelters collapsing, their supplies ruined. Mason thrived. His elevated shelter held firm. His fire, shielded by clay-packed embers, reignited with ease. But the real marvel came when he revealed his next move. Using charred wood, sand, and the same volcanic rocks that filtered his water, Mason constructed a rudimentary filtration system. Water poured from the skies, but most of it was contaminated, acidic, tainted by spores, or carrying parasites invisible to the naked eye. His filter changed that. By day's end, he had a consistent source of potable water. To the other contestants, Mason Calder had become a ghost. They saw signs of his presence, clean campsites, discarded tools, evidence of small game hunting, but never the man himself. To the galactic audience, he was no longer a human. He was a myth unfolding in real time. By the time the organizers released the predator species, massive, armored quadrupeds bred for tracking and terror, Mason was ready. He crafted traps, exploiting their poor eyesight and predictable territorial behavior. Tripwires of braided vine, pit traps camouflaged with debris, irritant oils that disoriented their sensitive olfactory systems. The predators faltered. Some died. The rest learned to avoid his territory entirely. It wasn't brute strength that allowed Mason to dominate. It was discipline, observation, an unflinching understanding that nature, no matter how alien, followed patterns, and patterns could be exploited. By day 5, the trials took an unexpected turn. Contestants began seeking him out, not to compete, but to join him. Desperation overrode pride. They whispered to the human ghost, the firemaker, the clean water one. Species with technological superiority beyond humanity's dreams begged for scraps of his knowledge. Mason allowed them in, cautiously. He taught them basic hygiene, fire-starting techniques, water purification. In exchange, they scouted, they guarded, they gathered materials. A coalition of survival, bound not by technology, but by understanding. The organizers were furious. The trials weren't meant to foster cooperation, especially not under human leadership. But they couldn't intervene. The rules forbade it. The betting markets exploded. Odds flipped overnight. Mason wasn't just surviving. He was dominating, reshaping the contest itself. By day 7, when only a fraction of the original contestants remained, Mason's camp resembled a primitive yet thriving village. Elevated shelters, fire pits, defensive perimeters, a shared stockpile of purified water and food. Aliens who once dismissed humans as backward primitives now followed his every instruction with reverence. But the trials had one final test. A manufactured environmental collapse, flash floods, chemical storms, predatory migrations, chaos designed to shatter even the most resilient groups. When it came, the jungle screamed with the sound of destruction. Trees toppled, rivers swelled, predators descended. Contestants scattered like frightened prey. But not Mason's group. They retreated to high ground Mason had scouted days prior. They utilized escape routes he had prepared. They waited out the storm in reinforced shelters. When the destruction cleared, they were not only alive, they were the last ones standing. The organizers had no choice. Mason Calder had won. But it wasn't just a victory for one human. It was a message to the galaxy. It shattered the stereotype of humans as fragile, reckless upstarts. It revealed a species that understood suffering, that clawed its way through planetary wars, resource scarcity, and environmental collapse with nothing but ingenuity and stubborn resolve. Mason's victory wasn't flashy. It wasn't driven by advanced weaponry or brute force. It was built on knowledge. The same knowledge his ancestors used to survive the frozen tundras, the barren deserts, the dense rainforests of Earth long before they ever reached the stars. In the aftermath, interviews poured in. Scientists demanded to study him. Militaries wanted to recruit him. The betting markets paid out fortunes to the few who believed. But Mason, he returned to Earth. Quietly, without ceremony. When asked why he competed, his answer was simple. Because survival isn't about who has the most toys. It's about who knows how to live without them. In the shadows of the galactic elite, fear simmered beneath the applause. They realized too late that humans weren't dangerous because of their weapons. They were dangerous because, when stripped of everything, they still endured. They adapted. They thrived. And no amount of alien arrogance could compete with that. The trials would never be the same. And neither would the galaxy.